Hey everyone, Alana here. So I'm doing this neat faux finish. It's faux steel panels in different stages of distress. My son, our 12-year-old son, he asked for a modern industrial room, and he's big into cars and motorbikes and all that kind of good stuff. So this started was just a white room. We did the red, or I did, and I'm doing all these panels. So before I finish, I just wanted to give you a demo on how to do this. So of course we measured them all out. They're 2 by 2.5, snapped a chalk line and taped around each one. It's been kind of a process. So these ones are prepped and ready for faux finishing. And what I've used here is something we don't normally use on the wall, and it's trim-clad rust paint in gloss aluminum, oil-based of course, so you do need to have Barsol on hand for cleanup. So I've painted the section, and then when it was nearly dry, and I don't want to press too hard with this because this does have Barsol on it. If you come in closer, we'll show you this one here. If you can, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but there is quite a bit of texture in the paint, which is what the faux finish is grabbing onto. So what I've done is, while the paint was drying, well, if I go like this and it's still tacky, then I would take my big, sloppy, old, hairy brush and I would press it on quite firmly and drag with quite a bit of pressure all the way across and then in the other direction and then just in a few hit and miss places, because when you have these steel panels like this, they aren't dead smooth. They do have quite a bit of texture to them. So, and you want some tooth, for lack of any other word, for the faux finish paint to go on top of. Now the only thing is, this is oil, and I am putting acrylic paint over top, which normally is a no-no, but I don't need it to adhere really well. I'm going to go back over this when this is all done with an oil-based Varathane to protect it, because I can actually go above and scratch my faux finish off with quite a bit of ease. In fact, my tape will take some of it off, and I'll have to touch that up a little bit. So we'll just cut off for a second. I'll mix up some paint to do the faux finish, and then I'll show you how to do it. Hi, welcome back. So all I've done is I've taken some red iron oxide acrylic paint and black, and I've got some water in my brush, and I'm going to work quite watery. I'm going to start around my edges. Of course, I don't want it to look like that, but I do want to give the edge of the tile or the panel a separation from the other one when I take them apart, when I take the tape off. So I'm going to grab a rag and just rub some of that back. I don't want to rub it all off, I just want to rub it back. Re-wet that, get rid of the hard edge. You can start pulling it in the other direction. I'm not doing the same thing on any two tiles, so they really get that uniquely aged look, like you just pulled a whole bunch of tiles out of an old warehouse and stuck them on the wall. You don't want them to all look the same, or you don't get that old look. So sometimes I blot, sometimes I rub. The trick with a good faux finish is if you can see the tool that did the faux finishing, the job, then you didn't do it right. The idea is to trick a person's mind into thinking that it's real. So you want to keep working it until you can't see specific tool marks. So now I'm going to go back in. I'm going to pick up a little of that iron oxide, a little of the black, a little more water. So now I'm going to get some brown in there. See how it's just grabbing the texture? I'm barely touching. It's grabbing the texture that I left when I went one way and then the other way, the cross hatching with the big hairy brush. So when I go back across this way, you're getting that idea like this stuff has been scratched into the metal. And you can do as little or as much of it as you want. I'm going to bring some of that rust back into that edge. You do want to work quickly. You don't want this stuff to dry on you. Although if it does, you are on an oil-based base with the aluminum, and add some more water, rub, rub, rub. You can get it off pretty good. Now that's a little heavier than I want. I'm going to just take my rag and blot some of that back. There's another texture. Might like a little more rust near the bottom. Get a little more of that iron oxide color. A little more water. You can make streaks of rust. Especially if you have a dent in the wall that you missed when you were prepping your surface. Just stick a little of that rust color in there. This got a little heavy on me here. Might even rub that. I'm not using anything as a reference. We've all seen old metal. Just kind of pull from your memory. If you needed to, you could have some photo reference or the real thing if you needed to have that in front of you. Water coming out of my brush from rinsing it. Blot that off. I have a spot here on the, I don't know how much the camera can pick up. I got a bit of a spot here from where some drywall compound was used and the paint just it creates a different sheen because I didn't bother to prime it first. And I was okay with that just because of the type of look I'm going for. I didn't need it to all be really pristine. But that's something to know if you're doing a nice finish wall, is if you had to fill with drywall compound, you definitely want to prime that area before you start rolling your paint on. It will always show through in your finished product. Faux finishing hides a multitude of sins and problems. I really like to have faux finish in stairwells, particularly with kids and dogs, as I have, because it really hides nose prints, kick marks, fingerprints, and spilled beverages and whatever else goes on in the stairwells. Got some more of these spots where the drywall compound was. So you get the idea. I'm just going to finish this one off, and then I'm going to show you one more. I've got one more left undone, and I'm going to do a bit of a different technique on that one. A little bit faster, quite different looking, because like I said, you want to get all your panels looking different from each other, because it increases the realism of the look. So anyways, I'll see you in a few minutes on the other panel. Thanks. So here's the finished tile for the one that I was just demoing for you. I've done a little bit more work, but not too much, just kept doing the same things I was already showing you. So there's that one, and let's go over to this last one. I'm going to show you a different way of doing this. Now this is a faster way, and we're using the oil and water don't mix to our advantage. But remember, I said you don't want to do them all this way, even though it's easier, just because you want them to all have a different look. So I have not changed my paint colors or my brush or anything. This is strictly how much water I'm going to use. And I think we'll lean more toward black because I have a fair bit of rust in this corner. So we'll go a little blacker. So I'm just going to wet my brush, fair bit of water. And I'm getting the side of the brush wet as opposed to just the tip. And I'm going to come up here and, oh, you know what? I'm going to get a little bit more pigment here. A little bit more pigment. A little more water. There we go. Want to get a fair bit of water on here. So you see how it's bubbling up. It doesn't really want to stick there. The more you work this, the more it is going to blend in. So in this case, we're just going to keep this wet and drippy. More pigment. So I'm just lightly dragging this on there. I'm trying not to go over the same spot too many times. More water. There's really no right or wrong. It's just a matter of being comfortable with it. I've done a lot of faux finishing in my time. I didn't feel the need to do a practice board of this technique, and I've never done it before. It just, with having experience with other techniques, I just went for it. This is the look I wanted, and I couldn't afford the real thing, so there you go. Necessity, the mother of invention. Creative problem solving. So I like the way this is going. I'm going to let it keep dripping. I'm going to take a little more pigment and just hit my edge a little bit more there. See how it's really coming away? It doesn't like it. Now, if you were painting an ordinary wall, you'd be freaking out right now. The other thing you can do is make sure you have a drop cloth on the floor. I'm going to take a little rust with this one. Got that nice and wet, right? Some good old-fashioned splatter. Don't overdo it, just a little bit. I might get a little bit more right there. There we go. That's actually the most I did on any tile. So now I'm just going to watch this. This is running away on me. I don't want this to go and get the tile below. I actually did get a little bit with the splatter, so I'll just wipe that off. And see, it's going to go on me, so I'm just going to grab it and slightly blot where it's dripping. I have my fan going, so that's helping this stuff dry really quickly. My ceiling fan's going as hard as it can. And when I'm painting the aluminum base, that takes forever to dry because that's oil based. So I have an additional floor fan going for that, because I didn't want to be here for 7 days with this. My son would like his room back. Funny that. So you get the idea. I'm just going to let that do its thing, and that'll be that. The whole wall will be finished. So we'll take one more quick look when I take this last tape off at the finished result. Okay. Hey, so in real time it's actually the next day, and here we are, the finished product. So I have put the polyurethane on, the oil-based Varathane, right? And I've put on these little false rivets to give the finished look of the, this is a nice close-up for you, of the real rivets, as if they were real steel panels. And that's part of a good faux finish, is getting all the little details, right? So I'll have my cameraman pan back and have a good look at the wall for you. I used a satin polyurethane. It shouldn't be too shiny. Even when they do this with real panels, they still put a sealer on it to protect you from the rust and whatnot. So that's the effect you're going to get regardless. If you had it too shiny, it would look quite weird. So that's it. Hope you all enjoyed this tutorial, and go out and give it a try for yourselves. Send me pictures of your attempts. I'd love to see it. Bye all.